Well, it's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, a lot of people have been asking me on Instagram and on Facebook and in my comments, BT, what do you think about, what did you think about Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor? And I didn't get a chance to watch the fight because I was in Cleveland, Ohio, doing some business. But now I watched it. I've scored it. I've taken a lot of notes. So this is going to be a longer, more drawn-out video, but it'll be my round-by-round take on the fight, so you guys know exactly where I stand. It was a great fight. Listen, this fight right here wasn't just a great fight for boxing, for women's boxing. It was a great fight for the whole entire sport. I really think this was the fight that, even if you're not a fan of women's boxing, this is the fight that maybe will encourage you to watch more of the big fights in women's boxing and give those two lady warriors the respect that they deserve. Because look, speaking as somebody from the States who's watched Amanda Serrano in person like 2 or 3 times, it's been depressing going to these fights and seeing where she's at, because I've known for years that Amanda Serrano was one of the best fighters, not just in women's boxing, but in boxing at large. And she wasn't getting the credit she deserved for a long, long time. And I went to Wilder versus Stavern 2 in 2017 at the Barclays Center. She fought on that card very early, not even on TV. Had a first round knockout that like nobody saw. So that was very saddening. Same thing happened when she fought here in Miami on the card that had Jake Paul in his pro debut, which with the main event being Demetrius Andre versus Luke Keeler. So she's had to work a long time for this, as well as Katie Taylor. So it was good to see that. Both fighters, you could really tell in the beginning of the fight, before they even threw a punch in the ring, based on both the entrances, both fighters were really just taking it all in, taking in the moment, as they should, because this has been a lot of years, and it was just great to see some of the women in boxing. I can't say all the women in boxing that cry and complain deserve to be on this kind of stage, but if there was 2 women that deserve to be on this kind of a stage, on this kind of a platform, with this kind of attention, it was Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. But that's enough of that. Let's just get into the fight. I'll give you guys my round-by-round assessment of the fight and everything that took place. So, first round, I thought the first round was a tough round to score. This is a round where Katie Taylor started to box on the back foot and punch on the move and counter Serrano. Like normal, she has that seek and destroy style. She was doing a lot of stalking of Katie Taylor early on, landing some good shots, but I thought Katie actually landed the cleaner and more effective shots in that round. But it was still a close enough round to where you could say it was a toss-up. I personally gave it to Katie Taylor, so I had her up 1 round after the first round. After the first round concluded, when Katie Taylor went to her corner to go get her instructions from her trainer, she didn't even sit down. And this was a theme that would occur the rest of the fight. She never sat down on the stool in between rounds. And I personally think this was like a form of psychological warfare to let Amanda Serrano know that, hey, I mean business. Or it could have been maybe she had some sort of injury we didn't know about, and standing up was actually more beneficial to her than sitting down. But either way, that's what she did from round 1 to round 10 in between the rounds. So, yeah, going in the second round, Amanda Serrano continued pressing a lot, but she was still running into the counters, still getting out some nice shots coming forward. But again, Katie Taylor still landing the cleaner and more effective shots. So I gave Katie Taylor that round as well. So 2-0 for Katie Taylor. Heading into round 3, Katie Taylor starting to feel the pressure a little bit from Serrano, as Amanda is now finding success with the straight left hand. She's digging to the body, handing out those rib dinners, as she's known for. And yeah, so that was that was the first round I gave Serrano. This was also the first round where the fighters kept punching after the bell, not because they wanted to, but because the crowd was so loud in New York City. The Madison Square Garden crowd was so good. It was so just electric that the referee couldn't even hear the bell to tell the fighters to stop punching. So that lets you know what kind of hype and what kind of energy was in the building for this kind of fight. So that was the first round I gave Serrano, which was the third round. The next round, round 4, Katie Taylor was cutting this round, but she still found a home for some counter punches and straight right hands. Amanda did some good work too, continuously stalking her, but I thought Taylor out-hustled Serrano in that particular round, and I actually gave her that round in round 4. So I had it 2-2 going into the 5th. a really good fight. You know, you don't really know who's gonna do what because both fighters had different and distinctively different game plans, and every time, you know, they were just it was a tug of war, especially early on in the fight. But yeah, anyway, going to round 5, I actually think that this round right here, round 5, was the best round of the fight for Amanda Serrano. But not only was it the best round of the fight for Serrano, I actually also think in a negative way, this round actually worked against Serrano. You'll see why later on. But in this round, this is the round where Serrano finally got Taylor to stop moving, cut the ring off in the corner, and now Taylor was faced with the decision to stand and fight and let her presence be felt, or fold under the pressure, under the bright lights of MSG, the Madison Square Garden. Amanda Serrano beat the piss out of Katie Taylor in this round. Beat the absolute piss out of her. Straight left hands to the body, right hooks to the head. I mean, she had Katie Taylor all out on her feet, stumbling. You know, she could barely stand. Bloodied up nose. Didn't really know where she was at. She really was very fortunate to make it out that round safely. And I'll be honest with you, this round was so one-sided. I know there was no knockdowns, and I don't normally do this, but this round was so one-sided, and it was so definitive, and it was so clear that I actually scored this round a 10-8 round for Amanda Serrano, because I believe she deserved a 10-8 round for how she came out instead of beating up on Katie Taylor and almost got her out of there. So 10-8 round, you know, through 5 rounds. If you're going on my scorecard, I had it 47-47. Because with the 10-8 round, that pretty much eliminates the other 2 rounds that Taylor won, you know. So it will make it 47-47. I pretty much an even fight going into the back half of the fight. So whoever was going to win the back half of the fight on my scorecard was going to have to win the fight at large. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, very, very, very good round for Amanda Serrano. Now, round 6, Katie Taylor wasn't necessarily all the way there, but she was still decided to found some success with counter punching and getting off first, despite not being all the way there. And I think this is one of those times where, like, you got to give Katie Taylor a lot of credit because she just behaved like a fighter. Like, she didn't fold, but she wasn't gun shy either. She let her hands go enough to let Serrano know that, hey, I may look like I'm out of this fight, but I'm not out of this fight. So you better be careful. So I thought it was a great way to behave like a fighter. You know, I always use that term, behave like a fighter. When shit gets hot, when things get tough, when the punches get really, really difficult to avoid, and you want to be in there, you know, in those moments you got to behave like a fighter. And I thought Katie Taylor did an exceptional job of doing that. But Serrano was still laying the harder and more telling shots in that round, so I actually give that round to Amanda Serrano, right? So now on my card, Amanda Serrano will be up by a point, you know, so she's winning the fight at this point. Going into the 7th round, now you're starting to see Katie Taylor moving better. She has her senses about her now. You can see she's a bit more switched on. But as far as meaningful punches thrown in this round between either fighter, this was actually probably one of the least eventful rounds because I think Amanda Serrano made the big mistake, the disastrous mistake of taking her foot off the gas and not, you know, sticking the fork in Katie Taylor, and this gave Katie Taylor the possibility to get a second win. But nonetheless, you know, Amanda's still digging to the body and snapping her head back with a jab, and she's still winning the round. But you can tell that little exchange trying to get her out in the 5th round has begun to take its toll on her. So I gave her that round. But you could tell that it was not good. You know, if she don't recoup quick enough, you're giving Katie Taylor a chance to get back into the fight. So then the round after that, which would be round number 8, and now you got to remember at this point, I have Serrano up by 2 points with 3 rounds left. So Katie Taylor got to box a perfect fight to win this fight. She can't even lose another round because it's 10 rounds, and it's already like what? I have Serrano up by 2 rounds with 3 rounds left to go. So she really needed to go into her bag and, you know, dig deep. But yeah, round 8, Katie Taylor has found herself again fully. She's boxing and moving and making the punch output of Serrano decrease. You know, between these two, Taylor clearly had the more superior amateur pedigree. So this was the part of the fight where now you've got a gassed Serrano and you're getting a second win. Now you dig back into those skills that have made you a brand name, a worldwide recognized great fighter in Katie Taylor, and she won that round. So now I've only got Serrano up by a round. So these next 2 rounds are just of the most importance. Round number 9, Serrano looks like she's punched herself out. Her punches are getting very wide. She's punching with the same rhythm, and now Katie Taylor's fully cut her second win. Serrano can't cut the ring off, and it's giving Katie Taylor a lot of confidence going down the stretch of this fight. She's just boxing great down the stretch. Like, it's crazy that the fight got flipped on its head. Like that 5th round where Serrano was trying to get her out of there. It really was a part of the fight that really actually hurt Serrano more than it helped her, because she didn't really have a lot down the stretch, and Katie Taylor had the grit and the gumption and just the overall dog in her to make the adjustment, to know who she was and stick to being that fighter down the stretch. And man, she won that round too. So we go to the final round. Now I've got the fight all the way even. This is one of the closest fights that I've watched in recent memory. This was truly, before I get to the 10th round, this was truly one of the fights where you could really say it could have gone either way, because that people, like these announcers, when they want to make it sound like the fight was closer than what it really was, they say, "Oh, well, it was a close fight that could have went either way," and it's bullshit. This fight was a close fight that could have went either way. So before I tell you guys what happened in round 10, just my tip of the cap goes to both of them. So we go to round 10. So in this round, I really think we saw what when you get to that level of a Katie Taylor and a Serrano. When you get to that creme de la creme, top shelf, the highest point you can go in boxing, this 10th round will show you just how minimal the margins are between winning and losing. But in round 10, Katie Taylor had some momentum coming in. And this round, she really proved to me. In this 12th round, this was Katie Taylor's finest hour. She dug deep. She dug deep into the deepest, darkest, toughest parts of her soul, and she would not be denied. Katie Taylor threw her sharpest punches when it mattered most in round 12. Early on in the round, and mind you, all these rounds are 2 minutes. So when I say early, I mean, that's not there's not a lot of time after the round starts. But Katie Taylor took the fight right to Serrano in round 12. I thought this was the one round where she actually won the round based on bullying the bully, taking the fight right to her. She was right there in the pocket. You could really see in this round that Serrano was gassed, and she's throwing these wide ass shots, and Katie Taylor's throwing them sharp, steak knife precise punches, and it paid dividends. I mean, Serrano did land one punch that actually buckled Katie Taylor, so I know people might use that to say that she won the round, but no. Serrano just landed so many short, sharp, precise punches that I think that was a lot better than the one punch that Serrano landed. And yeah, to me, that out of all the rounds I've ever watched Katie Taylor fight, that 12th round right there, that one was a special round. I mean, credit to Serrano, she came forward. She was still trying to make the fight and get her out of there in round 12. So you give her a lot of credit, but and that's a dangerous fighter. A pissed off, for greatness, Amanda Serrano trying to stamp her place in women's box history against Katie Taylor. That's a dangerous fighter. And in that moment, Katie Taylor actually outfought the fighter. She's more so of a boxer, but in that round, she outfought the fighter. She bullied the bully. And that round was the difference. And my final scorecard was 95-94. So that's how close the margins were. That's how close this fight was. And, I don't know if that'll be fight of the year because the year's not over yet. But I'm going to tell you guys this. That's going to be, at least, in my opinion, there's going to have to be some really, really damn good fights down the stretch of this year for any fight to be as good as that one, because that fight pretty much had everything but a knockout. I mean, you had an all-time great boxer in the sport against an all-time great knockout artist in the sport. People don't really talk a lot about the knockout power, the real punchy power that Serrano has, and I think that's why all these years Amanda Serrano has been probably one of the most watchable women's fighters, because she's such a big puncher, big puncher. And she's proven that time and time again. To have a girl like that going up against a girl like Katie Taylor, who won this fight, I got to give it to Katie Taylor, because over the last few years, I truly believe, she hasn't been her best. But with her knowing what was at stake and how big this fight was for the history of boxing, the biggest stage brought out the best Katie Taylor, and like even me, I've been a bit indifferent towards Katie Taylor for the years. Like I know she's good, I know she can fight, but to me, this fight right here, seeing how she performed under the biggest of circumstances, it really made me a fan of her. I mean, I was always a fan of her, but I'm like now I'm like, you know, Katie Taylor is top notch, the top of the top, the creme de la creme. She's one of the best. We knew this already, but this fight more than ever really cemented who she is in the sport and reminded people like me who may have overlooked her and didn't give her her just due. She boxed her ass off. She showed that she has the heart, the determination, and the grit. That's the one thing I want. The grit of Katie Taylor just was amazing. I gotta tell you guys, like when I watched the fight today, and I was at the library by myself. I go to the library sometimes. When I was at the library watching this fight on my computer, when you heard the atmosphere in the crowd and you saw the effort from both fighters, man, it brought some tears to my eyes, man. It really did, because these are two women right here that have gone through a lot in their careers, and they finally hit the big stage. And I know a lot of time when you're a fighter, there's a lot of pressure to perform. There's a lot of competition anxiety to perform and deliver a great fight and a great show for the fans. And not only did they exceed expectations, they blew the roof off the expectations. And it really warmed my heart to see both those fighters just give their best and deliver a great fight. And now more people can know who they are. And it's been so great to see on social media, like people that I know in boxing that don't even like women's boxing say, yo, I'm not a big fan of women's boxing, but that was a badass fight. That was a fight for the ages, you know. So just really happy to see that. I hope that this will, for the women, I hope and when I say the women, I mean the women that are like the elite of the elite. So like your Michaela Mayers, your Alicia Baumgartners, you know, the Sinisa Estradas of the world. I'm looking forward to all of them getting big fights, and hopefully they can have the same type of performances and be in the same type of fight that this was. But you know, as far as Amanda Serrano, like, look, she lost to Katie Taylor. There's no shame in that. She was, you know, a 126 pounder that moved up to 135, and she didn't look nothing like a 126 pounder when she was hitting. When Taylor would stand still and she was hitting her, Serrano looked like everything in the world but a 126 pounder. And there's no shame in losing this fight, because it was that close. She's still a legend. She's still, I think, Puerto Rico's only 7th division champion in history. And when they tell the stories of Katie Taylor, they can't tell it without Amanda Serrano. And when they tell the story about Amanda Serrano, they can't tell it without Katie Taylor. So it was an amazing fight. Even though I didn't get a chance to watch it like live when it was happening, I still got the feels. The hair on the back of my neck was standing up just from the atmosphere that we saw in the Garden and the effort we saw from both fighters. So yeah, you know, biggest fight in women's boxing history delivers. Hopefully we can get Savannah Marshall versus Clarissa Shields in the UK later this year. Mayer Baumgartner's a big fight. You know, Sinisa Estrada against any one of the champions, to me, is a big fight, because in my opinion, I think she's the best fighter in women's boxing. But yeah, just really happy, just really satisfied. It's a beautiful thing in boxing when you can watch a fight and just be satisfied with everything you saw and everything you watched, and everybody's just happy. So because it's rare, it's hard to please boxing fans. But yeah, my final score, if you didn't hear it the first time, I had it 95-94. Katie Taylor, she boxed a perfect fight down the stretch of the fight. And if you ever felt any sort of type of way about Katie Taylor, well, you got to give her just due now. And as for Serrano, you should also give her a just due. And that's what it is. I'm going to leave it at that. You guys, let me know what you think about the comments down below. Let me know what your scorecard was, and if you had Serrano winning or Taylor. Look forward to reading those comments. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on True School Sports, the home of boxing. If you made it this far, do me a favor and do yourself a damn favor. Hit that subscribe button, and surely you will not be disappointed. You know, True School Sports bringing you the latest and greatest, the untouchable, you know, boxing content, interviews, news videos, breakdowns, live fight reaction extravaganza. We've got a great community of people here, boxing fans all over the world, from America to the UK to Australia, and on and on and on. So join the empire today. Hit that subscribe button. Take care and God.